हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Namaste, friends. A warm welcome to session 5 of Drik, Drishya, Viveka. We are our own personality through which we perceive this world around us. As it is often said, there is more to it than meets the eye, and the eye is only the first seer. Through the study of this remarkable Prakarana Grantha, we now know of the two deeper seers, due to whom our perception of this world becomes complete as we know it. We are in the section between verses 13 and 21, where we are learning the causes of samsara and its remedies. Today's speakers are Dr. Anupama, Sri Ullas, Srimati Apeksha, and Dr. Vasumati. The session will be led by our teacher, Dr. Timapa Hegde sir, who unravels the glories of this beautiful text. Before we begin today's class, I request Srimati Rama Madam to help us recollect what we studied last week. Over to you, ma'am.
Recap Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Recap of the shlokas from 13 to 16. Let us understand a few technical terms before recollecting what we learnt in our last session. From shlokas 1 to 5, Swami Vidyaranya introduces threefold seers, that is, seer 1, the sense organs, seer 2, the mind, and seer 3, the sakshi. They are all integral part of an individual, and the author talked about their function and their formation. Sakshi, the witness consciousness, by its mere presence, enlivens the mind with Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness. The mind with the Chidabhasa, in turn, becomes the seer experiencing the seen through the sense organs. Seers 1 and 2 experience every activity in this universe in the presence of the seer 3. All the experiences belong either to our body or to the universe. The seers 1 and 2 are the products of Maya. Being anatmas, they are mithya amshas, which is unreal in nature. Whereas seer 3, the atma or Brahman, is satya amsha, which is real in nature. Drishyam or the seen is the body-mind complex and the experienced universe. Druk, the ultimate seer or the experiencer, is the witness consciousness. Every individual is a mixture of these satya mithya amshas. Nature of Brahman is pure existence, consciousness, and bliss. So with this background, let us analyze the shlokas 13. The author introduces the concept of Maya, the Shakti of Brahman. Maya is unmanifest names and forms, avyakta nama rupas, potentially existing in Brahman. It has two powers called Avarana Shakti, the veiling power, and Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power. Avarana Shakti veils or conceals the ultimate reality and causes ignorance of the self. Whereas Vikshepa Shakti projects the Brahman as our body-mind complex and the experienced universe. Experiencing the projected universe by Vikshepa Shakti alone does not cause much harm. In the next slide, projection of this universe is described. Brahman plus unmanifest avyakta nama rupa is the cause of this universe. Brahman plus vyakta nama rupas is the effect called the creation of this universe. The Vikshepa Shakti manifests the unmanifest nama rupa rested in Brahman as this universe with names and forms. It projects the entire subtle body as the experiencer of this creation, the entire gross body as the experienced creation. This projection is called as the creation. They are all mithya amshas as they depend on Brahman for existence and consciousness. Swami Vidyaranya says that Maya spreads a network of Nama Rupas over Brahman like waves, bubbles, or foam seen on the water, on the ocean water. The reality of water and Brahman is Satyam, whereas the reality of everything in this universe is Mithya. The next slide details the discussion on Avarana Shakti, the veiling power of Maya, as in Shloka 15. Once Vikshepa Shakti manifests Jivas and the universe, Avarana Shakti conceals the Satya Mithya difference between the seers and the seen, both internally and externally. Internally, the Avarana Shakti conceals the witness consciousness, and then the Vikshepa Shakti projects the reflected consciousness as the seer, causing the ignorance of the self. So it appears that Brahman is bound by the Desha Kala and Prarabdha karmas. Not realizing this truth is the error at the subjective level. Jivas identify anatmas like body-mind complex as the self and as a source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. Externally, it obscures the difference between the reality of Brahman and that of the creation. The non-apprehension of the reality of Brahman results in misapprehension of the universe as real. This is the error at objective level. This agnanam and the consequent mixing up is the cause of samsara. Avarana Shakti can only affect jivas and not Ishvara, like the poison of a snake affecting others but not the snake itself. Moving on to the next slide, we see the formation of jivas. In the Shloka 16, Swami Vidyaranya explains the formation of Vyavaharika Jiva or ego which experiences samsara. The Vyavaharika Jiva is a combination of Sakshi, reflected consciousness, the mind, and the gross body experiences the projected universe, as you see in the next slide. Now the previous slides are there is a small interchange. Yeah, the working of Avarana Shakti is explained in this slide. The Avarana Shakti causes errors at subjective and objective levels. Because of these two mistakes, Jiva is unable to discern this Satya Mithya difference and the samsaram is resulted. Rectifying these mistakes is the only solution to transcend the samsara. The shift from seer 1 and 2 to realize oneself to be the seer 3 is the only way to transcend samsara, the cycle of birth and death. The methodology of Drishya Viveka helps jivas to disidentify the seen from the seer in the shlokas to follow. Thank you. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ramaji, for a nice recap of the verses we studied in the last class. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Let me remind ourselves once again, why are we studying Drik, Drishya, Viveka, or for that matter, any scriptural text? Is it for scholarship to get mastery over that topic, or to undergo a certain transformation in the way I see myself, in the way I see the world around? We are looking for a change in the way we look at ourselves. Why do we need a change? Because we are born with a basic problem. The basic problem, or the capital that we are born, is what is called avidya. avidya or ignorance of my true nature. Because I do not know who I am, there is a triad or a series of problems born out of ignorance, and that is called the Hridaya Granthi. The Hridaya Granthi includes so many desires that we have, because I feel I am basically incomplete, not knowing that I am Purnamada Purnamidam, not knowing I am Atma Brahma, not knowing that I am here to inherit the universe, not knowing that I am the creator. I think I am a creature in this world. And because I do not know my true nature, I have a lot of desires. And because of those desires, I have to run around to fulfill those desires, which keep me completely busy. But there is now a catch situation. Because of my action, I create punya and papa, and the vicious cycle goes on and on. Fortunately, a guru has entered into our lives. Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan. And because of the guru, we are able to now look into our true nature. We've just learned in the last class that uh, as Panaga introduced, we are in that part of Drik Drishya Viveka, which is talking about what is the cause of samsara. Shakti Dvayahi Mayaya. That Maya is the cause of all the problems. Maya has got Vikshepa Shakti and Avrana Shakti. It conceals our true nature. And this results in the Hridaya Granthi and the Avidya. Who is responsible? The two Shaktis of Maya. Now, if there is because I do not know my true nature, I think I am this body-mind complex. And when I look at the world around, I think that the world is uh, an ordinary world. I don't see it as Bhagwan himself. I don't see it as Vishwarupa Ishvara. So, if what is the solution to the problem? That is why once the problem has been portrayed very clearly where we are doing this mistake. In today's class, we will have pinpoint diagnosis as to where is the mistake. Once we know where the mistake is, when we know Antara Drik Drishyo Beda Vahi Brahma Sargayu. I need to make a correction both within and to make a correction outside. So, what is the essence of Drik Drishya Viveka? Drik Drishya Viveka is a prakriya, a teaching technique. The method is called Viveka. One method we need to use is called Anvaya Vyatireka. What is there all the time? If you see what is there all the time, you will see seer number 3. The Drik is there all the time. The Drishyam, the perceived world, the objects of the world come and go. So focus on that which is present all the time, which is seer number 3, and give relative importance to the world that comes and goes. So what is the remedy? The remedy is Drik Drishya within. And how do I do the Drik Drishya within? That means when I look at myself, ask yourself, do I identify with the ahankara, which is the lower I, or see the lower I only as a body mind, as an instrument for me to help me to discover my true nature and to be able to function in the world outside? Prati bodha viditam matam. In every experience which I do with my body mind, I come in touch with the experiencer because of which all experiences happen. And that is Antara Drik Drishya Vedaha. I make that correction. Similarly, I need to make a correction outside. When I see the world, in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and in the 10th chapter, we were taught to see the world as the Vibhuti of the Lord. Vibhuti is only the glorious things. But when it comes to the 11th chapter, we see the world is not only a very beautiful aspect of the Lord, but it is also the destructive, the terrible aspect of the Lord, which I have to accept that everything in the changing world. That is why the world is called Jagat. Jayate, Gachate, Iti. Jayate means born, Gachate means gone, Iti means existence. Now, this world which is appearing and disappearing is only I need to see the substratum, which is existence. And now, what do I remember or what do I meditate on? The Chandogya Upanishad has said, Sarvam Kaluvidam Brahma. Everything that I see is Brahma. With this background, let us look into the verses, the opening verse, number 17. Dr. Anupama, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 17 goes like this. Asya jivatvam aropat sakshini api avabhasate avrittau tu vinashtayam bhede bhate apayati tat. As we have just heard, the human problem of samsara is a consequence of two errors. First, from within, I erroneously identify with seers 1 and 2, the body-mind complex, and instead of enjoying the ever-secure, the ever-purnatvam status of Sakshi, the seer 3, I superimpose the apurnatvam, the insecurities of this body-mind complex upon myself. And this drives me to seek support. From where? From the world outside. This becomes my second error. As we have seen in the Kathopanishads, Yamadharma Raja, who seems to be rather disappointed with Swayambhu, God, says, Paranchi kane vyatrinat Swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati na antaratman. But kaschit dhiraha pratyag atmanam aikshat avritta chakshuhu amritatvam ikshan. This means God has tormented us, according to Yamadharma Raja, by directing our sense organs, the seer 1, outwards. Therefore, we seek comfort in the perishable world instead of looking inwards. But there are a few intelligent people, kaschid dhiraha pratyag atmanam aikshat, having realized that seer 3, the Sakshi, is a distinct entity from seers 1 and 2, identify with this seer 3 and attain immortality, amritatvam ikshan. So what is wrong with seeking security outside? Although Brahma Tattvam exists in every experience, in every transaction as Asti Bhati Priya, as Sat Chit Ananda, I fail to see this and get entangled with the other aspect, the Nama Rupa, the perishable, the Mayikam Prapancha, and become a samsari. What is the cause of this samsara, this error? It is the Avarana Shakti of Maya. This makes me ignorant of the fact that I am Sakshi and not the body-mind complex. So in this verse, we see the words Asya Jivatvam Aropat. Here, Asya means of the body. So in this verse, we see Asya Jivatvam Aropat. Here, Asya means of the body-mind complex. Jivatvam means the samsara of the Vyavaharika Jiva. What is the meaning of Vyavaharika Jiva? Vyavaharika means Deha Sahita Lingasya Samsara, meaning Deha is the Stula Sharira and Linga means Sukshma Sharira. The samsara related to the body-mind complex, the Stula and Sukshma Sharira. Aropat means transfer, to be thrown upon my Sakshi nature, which consequently avabhasate, wrongly appears apurna. This erroneous transference of attributes is called dharma adhyasa. So we have a very familiar example of the crystal and the cloth. Just as the color of a blue cloth is transferred to a colorless crystal which is close by, so also jivatvam aropat. Because of this erroneous transfer, seer 3 appears as seer 2, wrongly, avabhasate, and I start identifying with the problems of this body-mind complex. This is called anujvara. So how do we solve this problem? Avritau tu vinashtavyam. Remove the avarana shakti of Maya. Remove ignorance of my Sakshi or seer 3 status. How? By Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, Guru Shastra Upadesha, get Atma Jnanam, which destroys this Avarana Shakti, Vinashtavyam Avritam. Now I know that I am Sakshi and not the body mind complex. Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, but Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. What is the meaning of Shiva? Shiva means Nitya Mukta. This is called Samyak Darshanam. Bhede bhate sati. The difference between Sakshi and body mind complex, when clearly known, tat apayati. Tat here means that borrowed samsara. Apayati means goes away. Therefore, when I understand a crystal as a crystal, despite it being tainted by a proximal object, and although its appearance remains tainted, my understanding or wisdom of its true nature remains unchanged. So also, whatever Nama Rupa, I should remain aware of Satchit Ananda, the Asti Bhati Priyam within myself and outside of me. With this, Jivatvam or Samsara goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, to tell us all the time be alert to not get into the trap of Maya. Maya has the ability to conceal our true nature, and therefore I forget my true nature and get into the Hridaya Granthi. The moment I identify, I'm not this body-mind complex, but I'm only the one who's using this body-mind complex. I am that limitless Atma. Again, when I see the world outside, I need to see the world as an extension of myself. It is none other than existence. So if I'm not going to be fooled both inside and outside, then I live as a Jivan Mukta. The next verse will be explained by Ullas. Ullas, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. We have seen that the main problem of samsara is due to Maya and its two Shaktis. And what a great example of that crystal was shown. That it is taking up the attributes of the things around it. Even though that blueness is not from the, even the blueness was not from the crystal itself, but the crystal acquires that, or it appears as though it has acquired it. And if there was any problem with the cloth, then that problem would appear as though it is with the crystal. So in this verse also, the same thing is being extended upon is Tatha Sarga. Sarga is all these changing things on the world, that blue cloth, those are things are the Sarga. Brahmano. Brahman is the one which is the unchanging, which is the real self that we are. Cha bhedam avritya tishtati. The difference between these two, the Sarga, the changing, and the Brahman, that becomes a little confusing. We are not able to differentiate between the two because it becomes avritya tishtati. The avarana shakti of the Maya takes over. And then ya shakti tat vashat, because of that Shakti, because under the influence of that Shakti, this Brahman, which is changeless, Vikratatvena bhasate, it appears as though it is changing. So the change happens in the sarga, in the changing world. But because of the close proximity and because of that superimposition, we feel that the Brahman itself is undergoing all the changes. And that is the problem of samsara. So we'll go into a little bit more detail. In the next slide, we see that what is the cause of this samsara and then what is the remedy of that. Ultimately, that is what we are here to learn and see how we can inculcate in our lives. We have seen that Maya has two Shaktis, Avarana and Vikshepa. With the Avarana Shakti, my real nature is concealed. And what my real nature is, that I am already Purna. But because of Maya Shakti, it appears to me that I am Apurna. And because of that, I am trying to look for that Purnatvam outside. And because another Shakti of Maya is that it also creates all this world, the different names and forms and different things that we see around this body, mind, all that has been created through the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya. Now, this Vikshepa Shakti is not that problematic, but this Avarana Shakti is the real spoiler, we'll see. And the seer 3, the Brahman, that is not Mayakam. These Avarana Shakti, Vikshep Shakti, world, body, mind, all these are Mayakam. These are generated out of Maya. But the Brahman, the seer 3, is the Vastavam. Vastavam is the real one, the existence, the real thing that exists. That has no effect of Maya on it. But the thing is, by itself, it cannot do any transactions per se. So that superimposition takes place. And all those transactions are happening only thanks to Maya, or else I'll not be able to go to office. I'll not be able to play with my children. All those things will not happen if it were not for Maya. But we have to see the difference between that cloth and the crystal. In the next slide, the real thing is when I am not aware that I am the one which is already Purna, then those problems happen. Now, what happens is that because of the juxtaposition, because of that superimposition between Maikam and Vastavam, the difference becomes so unidentifiable that they appear as though they are the same. And then this mix up happens. So all the problems of the Maya, because all the problems happens because of the changing nature of Maya. And when there is a change, then there are problems that will happen. The blue cloth can become, let's say, dirty, or it can have wrinkles, or so many other things. Now, another example that is also being told is, for example, there is wooden desk is there. Now, the real thing is wood. But all the problems of desk, the Nama Rupa problems, that the desk can be broken, one of the legs can go away, you can scratch on the surface of the desk. But those things are happening in the Nama Rupa. The wood is already there. When we say the weight of the desk, the weight is not really of the desk, the weight is of the wood. So actually there is so much of intermingling happening that when we want to say wood, we are actually saying the desk and they're treating as though they're the same. But actually we have to understand the substance is actually the wood and desk is just the Namarupa. And the problems of Namarupa, which is changing, that gets superimposed upon the changeless wood, and there's where the whole problem starts to happen. So it's all just a change of attitude. So currently we are tuned to a particular attitude. We just need to just step back, be a little bit more self-aware, and then understand what is the right attitude we need to keep. So as I said, Sarga is the changing Namarupa and Brahman is the unchanging substratum. So we, in the next slide, we'll see that Brahma Vikritatvena bhasate. Bhasate means appears. Vikrit means something which is changing. Namarupa is changing, but the Brahman appears as though it is changing because of that superimposition. So we do mistakes at two levels. One is at the subjective level. When I have to say I am Atma, I am the unchanging Atma. I start to kind of think that I am Anatma. I am Apurna. So that's at the subjective level. Do you do the same thing at the world level also? We see that the world is having all these names and forms. There is a fan, there's a desk, there is a laptop, there is pen, all those things. But we don't think from the perspective of pure existence, that all these are Namarupa, but the pure existence is the isness behind all these things that are. Nothing happens to that isness. That pure existence is the same thing as Brahman. So we do the same problem at the worldly level also, that we get lost in the Nama Rupa, but don't realize what is the real essence behind that pure existence, that isness. In the next slide, so what are the practical effects of this problem? That one, I become insecure of who I am. I am actually complete, Purna, but I start feeling I'm incomplete. So that insecurity starts coming into me. And I'm trying to look for security from the outside world. That outside world itself is insecure, but because it is already changing. There is nothing permanent there. Now, how will an insecure thing provide insecurity to me? How should I should be using cardboard chair for everything else, but to sit on that, but to rely on that. So, but what we end up doing is we start sitting on that cardboard chair, relying on that, and that's how we fall into the problems of samsara. So, the only remedy there is that I have to know who I really am, that I am really Purna, then I can never be insecure. So, that is where we see, and in the next verse, we'll see more about this remedy. Thank you, sir. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Ullas, for a very nice explanation of a great mantra by Vidyaranya Swami. We have been seeing all along what is the cause of samsara. And the cause of samsara is Drik, Drishya, Viveka. So whatever I see, I may need to make a correction on the seer, and whatever I see also on the object, I need to make a correction. One more verse on a similar topic by Apeksha. Apeksha.
Hari Om Sir. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. So here we'll see the extension of the previous two verses in a little more detail here. So it goes like this. Atrapya vratinashen vibhati brahma sargayo bhedaste yo vikaraha syatah sargena brahmani kvachit. The meaning of this verse is the distinction between Brahman and this universe becomes clear with the disappearance of the veiling power, which we saw in the previous verse also. Therefore, change is perceived in the phenomenal universe, but never in Brahman. So now we go in detail. Next slide, sir. So the problem of Avarna Shakti, and Ullas beautifully explained about this is the real spoiler that we have. So there are two powers of Maya, again, Vikshepa Shakti, which actually projects the power that creates the body and mind, and is not really a problem because it is through this body and mind that we experience everything, right? The main problem is the Avarna Shakti, the veiling problem, as it covers the real truth, the pure existence from us. So for a Jivana Muktaha, the one who attains liberation, who realizes I am already liberated, because we all are already liberated. It is just that it is covered by this Avarna Shakti. The Jivan Mukta who knows that he is already liberated while living, it is possible because he has removed this Avarna Shakti through Jnana, knowledge. And Vikshepa remains Vikshepa, and he knows that this Vikshepa will remain until your Prarabdha karma gets exhausted. So this body is not a problem at all, because this is due to Prarabdha karma and we have to live through that. But the Avarna that creates the veil that covers the truth is removed by the Jnana. So Avarna is the Jnana, the ignorance that is in us, and that is removed through two ways, that is Shravana, listening, and Manana, reflection under a Guru. And we will look in the next slide in detail. So what is the part two knowledge, right? What is that entrance test of Vedanta? What is that listening jnana? How do you attain knowledge? So Vedanta actually requires preparation. And how do you do that preparation? It is through Viveka. We'll talk about Viveka in the next slide also. That helps us discriminate between what is real and unreal. Vairagya through dispassion. And obviously the Shataka Shampatti that you need to have in order to gain the knowledge, the sixfold qualities that we all know about. So once you're prepared, then you undertake the Shravana Manana to remove this ignorance of Avarna Shakti. It's like mirror analogy. It's a beautiful example that Swami Param has given, and he says just like you need a mirror to see the face, right? Exactly like that. Self-knowledge, self-knowledge needs that Shastra Pramana, the mirror. And what is that Shastra Pramana? The scriptural knowledge that we are reading right now. Next slide, sir. So we talked about Viveka, right? So two levels of discrimination Viveka is there. In the 17th verse, we saw the subjective and the objective. 17th verse explains the subjective part of the Viveka, Tvam Pada Viveka, and the objective part is Tat Pada Viveka. So what is Tvam Tat Pada Viveka is essentially what we need to know. So what is that subjective? The subjective Viveka helps us differentiate between the Sakshi, that is our inner self, from the body-mind complex that is created by the Vikshepa. Atma and Atma Viveka. Right? That was highlighted in verse 17. And in the previous verse, we talked about the objective, Tat Pada Viveka, which helps us differentiate between Brahman, the real pure existence, from the creation. Right? That is the Mayaka. Both can be done, both of this Viveka can be developed through Shravana Minana, which helps us see that there's no physical separation. There's no physical separation between both of them, only intellectual clarity, only by telling yourself that I am liberated, I am Muksha, I am not insecure at all. That can only help you. And for this, Swami Param talks about the light and the isness analogies here. The hand and the light analogy is done. This hand example is very famous, and Sar has also explained it many times. When you are seeing this hand, so what are you that you are seeing? So when you see this hand, normally people will say, I'm seeing the hand, I'm seeing the finger, I'm seeing, this part of your hand, everything. But you're also apart from that, what else are you seeing? You're seeing the hand because there's also light which goes unnoticed, right? So this light is not a product, part, or property of the hand, but it is also there. Even if I remove this hand, the light will always be there, right? That's why you're able to see this hand. But our focus never goes on the light. Similarly, for Brahman also, you can extend this philosophy to Brahman also. When you say this fan is, right, you're perceiving the existence, that isness, that is. Even if fan is removed or this hand is removed, that isness, the light will always be there, the Brahman is also there. So the existence is independent of name and form, which is this hand, like light is of hand, right? Similarly, Brahman is also independent of name and form of us. Even when nothing is there, that nothing is, that isness remains, Brahman is still there. The existence is still there and we are able to perceive. So what is that final insight? Brahman and creation, let's talk about it. Brahman is nothing but pure existence. It is unchanging. It never changes. It is still there. And creation is the Nama Rupa, which we tend to confuse ourselves with. So that is apparent forms that we say, and they are subject to change because of the Avarna Shakti, the Maya Shakti that we saw. Like light seems to move with the hand, but it actually doesn't, right? If I move the hand, you will say that the light is moving, but this light is not moving. It is just all pervading. Similarly, Brahman appears to change because of our own ignorance, but it actually remains unaffected. Even if we are not there, Brahman is. So the key takeaway here is what is, that is God. That isness is the Satchit Ananda that we experience. Brahman is ever present. It changes only because of the creation. It changes belong only to the creation, the Sarga that Ullas talked about, and not the Brahman. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Apeksha. Another nice explanation of this verse. We come to the last verse for today, and that is verse 20, a very often quoted verse dealing with Satchit Ananda. Dr. Vasumati, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verse 20 goes like this. Asti Bhati Priyam Rupam Namachet Amsha Panchakam Adyatrayam Brahma Rupam Jagad Rupam Tatodvayam. We have heard, and I think we all have a fair understanding once we started Drishya Viveka, that the cause of samsara is the agnanam caused by avarana shakti, leading to lack of discrimination between satyam and mithya. And this happens both at the subjective level as well as the objective level, as mentioned by the previous speakers also. At the subjective level, Drik, the Atma, is Satyam, Drishyam, the Anatma, is Mithya. And this reference between Drik and Drishya is not known. So, it is Drik Drishya Aviveka, number 1, caused by Avarana Shakti. Similarly, there is a Satyam Mithya mixture at the objective level, and that is the mixture between Brahman and Prapancha. Brahman Prapancha Aviveka number 2 is the cause of samsara with regard to the outside world. This second Aviveka is pointed out in this 20th verse. When we experience the world outside, it's a world mixed with Brahman. Next slide, sir. Going back to this example, which is repeated quite often, repeated learning will also help us, in a more, concrete understanding. When you're looking at my hand, even though generally you think that you're just seeing the hand, and the minute you pay attention, we know that pure hand can never be seen. If the hand by itself can be seen in midnight or in darkness, also you should be able to see the hand. But that doesn't happen. That means here what you see is a mixture of hand and light. Even though the mixture is involved, one of them, the subtler one and the most important one, is taken for granted. So you don't lack the anubhava of life. You don't lack the experience. What we lack is we don't pay attention to that experienced fact. Even though the light experience is continuous, we generally don't pay attention to the fact. And the aim of Vedanta is not giving a new experience to us, but drawing our attention to the already experienced, the continually experienced fact. Next slide, sir. Swami Vidyaranya says here, in all our experiences, 5 factors are involved. One is asti. We have heard before also. We say table is, chair is, man is. We use the word is, but we never pay attention to the isness. Every word should have a corresponding object. So when you say table is, we are taking for granted the word is. Therefore, he says isness is a factor, is the first factor. And then he also says another beautiful thing. Whenever you say something is, you have experienced that object, you have known that object. You can never talk about the isness of an unknown object. Isness presupposes knownness. You can never talk about the existence of something without making it an object of knowledge. And knownness is possible only when you're conscious of the object. And therefore, bhati, something is known means that consciousness is associated with all those objects about whose existence we talk about. Therefore, asti means sat sambandha and bhati means chit sambandha. And then he says, not only that, ananda sambandha is also there. Every object is associated with ananda also. How is ananda sambandha known? Whenever you say, I like this object, I like this person, the word like means it gives me joy. Priya indicates ananda sambandha. Next slide, sir. Thus, everything in creation has got asti, existence, bhati, consciousness, and priyam, ananda, sat sambandha, chit sambandha, and ananda sambandha. Three factors. There are two more factors. What are they? Nama rupancha. Nama means names, as we know, which will vary. Rupam means literally form or color. And of these five, three are everywhere and non-changing. Whatever is non-changing and uniform, generally we don't pay attention. Whatever, that is human psychology. I don't pay attention to the light. Whatever is uniform and changeless is taken for granted. And here Swami Vidyaranya says, Asti Bhati Priyam is changeless Brahman. And since it is uniform everywhere, people don't notice it. Whereas Nama Rupa, there is variety, and therefore people fall in love with Nama Rupa. Maya always wins. Why? Because Maya has the capacity to attract by being non-uniform and also by changing all the time. One can enjoy Maya by holding on to Brahman, but if you leave Brahman and hold on to Maya, remember the cardboard change example given by Ullas. Next slide, sir. Now look at the shloka. Asti, existence, bhati, consciousness, priyam, ananda, attributes of nama, the name, and rupam, a pleasurable form. These are the five components. Of them, adyatrayam, the first three, asti, bhati, priyam, satchitananda, belong to Brahman, which is uniform and changeless. Consciousness is also uniform and changeless, and we know existence also is uniform and changeless, but how can we say ananda is uniform and changeless? Our experiences, we find ananda is fluctuating. The ananda which manifests in the mind is never uniform. Experiential pleasure will never be uniform, because experiential pleasure is not Brahmananda, but Ananda reflected in the mind. And since the mind has fluctuations, Ananda seems to have fluctuations. The original Ananda has no fluctuations. It is changeless. Reflected Ananda alone fluctuates. So, Adyatrayam, Brahmarupam, and Tatodvayam, that is, the Tatodvayam means we know that is the Rupam and Nama that belong to Jagat, and the first three belong to Brahman. So, what type of a world is this? This with a Nama Rupa, and we know it is a Mithya world, fluctuating world, which is unstable. But in life, never hold on to Nama Rupa, but hold on to the Satchidananda Brahma Rupam. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vasumati. An excellent explanation of a very important verse. And one thing that you really highlighted, and what we need to say is Vedanta is not giving us a new experience. So in all these classes, don't expect a new experience. But what Vedanta is trying to draw our attention is to something that is always experienced. It is always there, but that we do not give importance to it. And what is that? The isness. I am. So if there are some things which you don't need the sense organs and the mind, is to know that I am. Whenever I say I, it means I am conscious. Only a conscious person can say I. This table cannot say I. So whenever we say I, it means I am conscious. Whenever you say I am, you mean I am existent. We all know I am, but what we do not know, and that is what we have to draw our attention to, and that is something which cannot be our experience at also, that I am limitless. I am Satchit Ananta. And therefore, if I am Satchit Ananta, then the next training is everything that I see is none other than an extension of myself. Because if I am limitless, everything that around me is not other than me. Because there can be no second thing that can limit this limitless me. And therefore, you need to see yourself as the Lord, Isha. And the whole world is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat. Other than me, which is of the nature of Satchit Ananta, there is nothing else. So let us see how much we have understood in the form of a teaching quiz, which will be conducted by Dr. Anupama. Dr. Anupama, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Based upon what we have studied today, let's try to answer some of these questions. What does the word Jivatvam mean? Please select the right one. Identifying with samsara of body-mind complex. Does it mean ajnana? Does it mean human birth or privileges of being a human being? The victim of Vikshepa Shakti of Maya.
The most appropriate answer, I would say, is identifying with samsara of the body-mind complex.
Yes. And we've heard that through all the talks today. Next. Asya jivatvam aropat sakshini ava bhasate. The false transference of attributes upon sakshi. What does the word aropanam mean? Does it mean avaranam, dharma adhyasa, anyonya adhyasa, ajnanam or vikshepa?
The word aropanam means superimposition. So it cannot be avaranam. It could be either dharma adhyasa or anyonya adhyasa. Dharma adhyasa is transferring your attributes to something else. The question is false transference of attributes upon sakshi. So the most appropriate answer should be dharma adhyasa.
That's
It is
right.
useful to discuss what is anyonya adhyasa. Can you explain?
So, dharma adhyasa is a one-way transfer. When we are transferring attributes of one object upon another, in this case, we are transferring the attributes of body-mind complex upon sakshi and therefore the confusion. Anyonya adhyasa is when it happens the other way around also. When we don't know that sakshi is satya and we attribute the mithyatvam of body-mind complex on sakshi and the satyatvam of sakshi upon the body-mind complex. That is a two-way error. So in this case, the answer is dharma adhyasa. The word dharma here means attributes.
If I can add, so this verse talks about false transference of attributes on the limitless me, Atma or Sakshi. Whenever I say I'm fat or thin, I'm transferring the attributes of the body on the Sakshi. Whenever I say I'm sad or happy, I'm transferring the attributes of my mind on the Sakshi. Whenever I'm saying I'm hungry or thirsty, I'm transferring the attributes of my prana shakti on. So I can go through various koshas. So this is how we tend to transfer. This is what is called dharma adhyasa. Good question. Please proceed.
So we could solve the problem of samsara by removing the avarana shakti of Maya, by practicing Shravana Manana Nidithyasanam, by detaching from the body-mind complex, by knowing with conviction that Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, or all of the above?
We can solve the problem of samsara by all the above methods.
Yes. So in today's talk, we have seen the difference between Vastavam and Mayikam. We learned that Sakshi is Vastavam and the body-mind complex is Mayikam. Can you just let us know a few differences between Vastavam and Mayikam, please?
Vastava means that which exists. Mayam is that which appears. So essentially it is Atma, Anatma difference. So Sakshi is comparable to Paramarthika, Atma, uncreated, does not undergo any modifications of a higher order of reality. The Drik, whereas Mayikam will be the Drishyam undergoing modification, that which is created, the Anatma constantly undergoing changes and so on.
Yes, absolutely right.
Would you go through this? Whatever you want to.
Yes, Vastavam. Vasate. Vasate means sat, something that is always there. So Sakshi can never be created. But we know the body-mind complex is created by Maya. Then we know Sakshi is of a different order of reality, which is called the Paramarthika reality. And the body-mind complex is Mayikam, which is Vyavaharika. We have already known the difference between Drik, the seer, and Drishyam, that is seen. Satyam is that which exists in all periods of time, in all avasthas, and Mityam, which does not exist in all periods of time. Atma and Anatma. Atma is something that is sentient, Anatma is Jada, non-sentient.
In
There are many.
spite of knowing all the difference, we still identify with the body-mind complex.
Yes, because of the Avarana Shakti of Maya, which we have not been able to lift.
Please continue.
Avritau tu vinashtayam vede bhate apayati tat. Avritam tu vinashtayam. What happens when the Avarana Shakti or ignorance is gone? Does this mean that the mind gets destroyed, the body disintegrates, I cease to identify with body-mind complex, I'm convinced that I'm seer too? None of the above.
Avritu, concealing, vinashtayam. When the concealing is destroyed, then what happens is I cease to identify with the body-mind complex.
Yes, we've been seeing this ad nauseum from the first verse. So I remain as Sakshi of the body-mind complex, as seer 3. So how does this Avarana go? That was the previous question by Shravana Manana Nidityasan. Bede bhate apayati tat. Here tat means that samsara. So by realizing the difference between Sakshi and the body-mind complex, that borrowed samsara goes. Now, how does this samsara go? By doing pilgrimage, by seeking the help of astrology, Nadu, Vastu, Shastra, etc., Nadi, by doing prayaschita karma, by performing tapas, by realizing the problem belongs to the body-mind complex and not me, the Sakshi.
By identifying with the Sakshi and realizing the problem belongs to the Anatma body-mind complex and not to the real me.
That's right. What is a person who has removed the Avarana Shakti but still enjoys Vikshepa Shakti called? Apeksha told this answer.
Read the list, please.
Is it a sannyasi? Is it a parivrajaka? A videha mukta? A jivan mukta? Is it all of the above or none of the above?
The Videha Mukti does not exist because he has left his body. So the answer should be a Jivan Mukta, and I wish all of us could attain to that.
Absolutely right. So Vikshepa Shakti has to continue till Prarabdha. And it is so beautiful when there is no Avarana. Okay. So in this verse, the answer is in the verse, so I will not read it. Brahmani kvachit nasti. In Brahman or pure existence, there is no, just fill in the blank. The answer is in the verse. Is it Satyatvam? Is it consciousness? Drik Drishya Bheda? Is it Vikara or is it Vastavam?
In pure existence, there is no vikara, there is no modification, there is no change that is possible.
That's right. So, what should we do for Brahma Anubhava? Should we do Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, go for Guru Shastra Upadesha, do Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, become a Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna, do nothing, or beware of Asti Bhati?
Evidently be aware of Asti Bhati. What about nothing?
See, you can do nothing and be an Ajnani, no? Like, this is like the light and the hand. You can do nothing but still see the light and the hand and be not aware of the light. But to become aware of the light around the hand is another level of existence.
You have to go through all this.
Yeah.
So Vedanta helps you to become aware of what is always there, but we have not paid aware to it. And that means we need to give real importance to existence, consciousness, and limitlessness in everything that we see, including ourselves.
Okay. In this verse 20, we have heard the words Asti Bhati, which mean Sat and Chit, and we know they are Nirvikara. Is Priyam, the third word, Vyavaharika or Pratibhasika? And should this Priyam be categorized with the Astibhati part or the Nama Rupa part? Please explain.
This Priyam is given from a poetic aspect because it should mean actually Ananda or Anantatvam. So it means it is a reflection of the original. And when the reflection is still the original. So it should be under Paramarthika.
That's right.
Please explain.
Okay. As you said, Priyam is just for poetic use, it means Ananda. But we also experience a Pratibimba Ananda or a reflected Ananda, which has gradations. Okay, we do experience different levels of Pratibimba Ananda, which could be Priya, Modha, Pramoda. But what we should really remember each time is that every Ananda that we experience is our actual Brahmananda, which has been triggered by some Vishaya. There is no Ananda apart from Brahmananda. The example is the dog and the bone. When a dog bites a sharp bone, it inflicts injury upon itself and starts bleeding. And what does it think? It's so delusional. It thinks by biting, when it did not bite the bone, there was no blood. But after biting, the blood came out. So it is delusional about the source of the blood, like we are delusional about the source of Ananda. Therefore, the dog thinks the bone is the source of juicy Ananda, just like we think that every sensory joy comes from the object. It does not. It is just a manifestation of our own Akhanda Ananda triggered by that object. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you all the speakers and Dr. Hegde sir for a wonderful session. Thank you Anupama madam for the very informative teaching quiz. Thank you all viewers for your unstinted support, active participation and valuable feedback. As all of you are aware, Param Vedanta has been offering Guru Dakshina to all our gurus twice a year, once during Guru Purnima and again during Gita Jayanti. You have been a part of this offering all through and we are indeed grateful to you. This year, Guru Purnima falls on the 10th of July 2025 and the window is open for us to offer our gratitude and reverence to the lotus feet of our Gurus. I am sure you will join us in this Guru Seva as always. Needless to mention, the decision to donate is purely voluntary. The entire amount of your offering thus collected will reach our Gurus. The mode of payment and the account details are displayed on the screen. It is also being sent to you in all the groups, including Telegram. Those of you who decide to contribute may remit your Guru Dakshina to this account. Overseas listeners, please note that the amount will have to be transferred from an Indian account only. Details of Guru Dakshina offered will be shared with you all. Thank you all for being with us in this divine journey. Coming Monday, 16th of June 2025, let's tune in at 6:45 p.m. for
for session 6 of the concluding session on the overview of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In this last session of the series, Dr. Hegde sir will give us the essence and contents of chapter 5 and 6 of Upanishad. Let's conclude this session with our Shanti mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.